And we are live once again. Everybody knows every Tuesday at 8, another episode of the MCW Cast. I'm Legacy MCW announcer Larry Legend. And with us in the studio tonight is not MCW co-owner Dan McDevitt, but we've got the one, the only, Brett Terry.
Do not adjust your computer screens. Dan McDevitt did not get any gasteotomy surgery. He did not go on the Weight Watchers diet, and he did not shrink about, 6 inches and get in a very horrible car wreck. It is just I, Brent Terry, filling in for Dan McDevitt. And I'm excited to be here, guys. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, this is your second appearance.
It's my second appearance, yeah. A sophomore appearance. You brought me back, so obviously I haven't burned the bridge, but I plan on, once I'm done here, burning every bridge except the one out of town, and then I'll hit that one once I'm gone.
Oh, there's no way you could burn your bridge here. You're a legacy character.
You are. That's right, along with all of us. We are all MCW originals, really.
Absolutely, we are. And close. We cannot be remiss in mentioning also with us, as always, and
beautiful, lovely,
vivacious, and I've got history made, the one individual that has been a part of every MCW cast since they began, the lovely Tara.
Thank you for that introduction.
Again.
Wow.
Yes, indeed. It's been a while.
If she's one thing, she's consistent. Somebody has to be, right?
Yeah, well, you said it, brother.
That's funny, man. We really if you think about that, it's been 20 years since we all came along, all these weird, diverse personalities.
Yeah.
Walking into that, warehouse on Caton Avenue.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And being scared. I don't know about you, Larry. I was terrified.
Oh, God, yeah.
for a good year, maybe. And, and when I suddenly realized nobody was going to murder me or eat me or hurt me too bad, except my feelings, I got over it. And then things started to progress. You start to move forward and you start to learn your craft. And all those tools that I learned there, my story would not be the same if would have been a story at all concerning wrestling without MCW and meeting you guys and going forward. So I thank you.
I think it's fascinating that 20 years later we're all still here.
Yeah,
and
right?
Because this is a hard business. It chews people up and spits them out. And the fact that we have, all three of us have endured and not as wrestlers, I think really speaks a lot to the heart that we have for this business, and also our ability to diversify and bend adapt and do things. I'm not trying to get back in the ring anytime soon. There's too much other fun stuff to do.
Right.
So, this is a testament to what we've all formed here, these bonds.
That's right. We've stayed in our lanes. And speaking of flexing your skills, last episode of the cast, a very special episode of the MCW Cast, live with Matt Cardona, a.k.a. formerly Zack Ryder.
I met him as a major brother 15 years ago in WWE Developmental OVW. He was shipped up from Deep South Wrestling, and that whole developmental culture, man, that's a show unto itself. And seeing Matt Cardona here again, and I've ran into him over the years plenty of times. It's really kind of a understated fact that he is what I would consider a very important and renaissance man as far as not only tenacity, but opening up another tool in the toolbox to stay relevant and to stay hot and to stay on top as much as one can in the professional wrestling business, which Tara just pointed out, is dog eat dog, man. It is. I kind of feel like you can never really get success in wrestling or be your true self, your true voice, your true who you're meant to be until the wrestling business breaks your heart.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't quit. You come back. You think about it all the time, but you keep coming back. And eventually that's where you start to get good at what you can and can't do. So
absolutely.
That's my opinion.
To this day, I'm still answering some people in text messages with woo, woo, woo. You know it. As dated of a reference as that is, I just love it. It speaks to my heart. I always love saying that.
An important part in this business is getting the fans to care about you. Whether they hate you or love you, you just need them to care about you. And that's something that Zack Ryder or Matt Cardona really did. And, he was able to reinvent himself and make the people care to the point where they were chanting for him when he wasn't even booked on shows. That's doesn't
crazy.
happen.
They latched onto this idea because he was one of them. He was speaking directly to them. Now, I can tell you for a fact when the Major Brothers, when Brian Myers and Matt Cardona showed up in OVW, we're like, what are these dorks that like these toys? And what a bunch of dweebs. But they were right.
Yeah.
They were right. We're the wrong ones. We're the idiots. Captain Cool playing it cool. And they've gone on to really be like almost a projection of what the fans see in themselves. But they're just huge wrestling fans. Here's a funny, real quick funny story. One time in the gym before WrestleMania, that they were supposed to be the Edgeheads and make the run in on Undertaker and Edge. They were in the gym. I'm doing my Jane Fonda workout, and Matt Cardona's hitting the weights, and there's Scott Steiner, and Matt Cardona's just staring at him like a fan, like, oh, I can't believe I'm in the gym with Steiner.
Yeah.
And we had to be like, bro, do you know you're in the main event of WrestleMania tomorrow? Are you aware of this?
100%. You had to bring him back down to earth for a second there. And that speaks to the passion that we have. We're all fans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that fandemonium that started with playing with your figures in your room. And,
Right.
for me, I was the announcer for my figures when they walked down. That translated right into me just, it wasn't enough to do it in my room. It wasn't enough to do it with a video game. I had to find a way in. So
I didn't have wrestling figures when I was a kid. I mean,
Oh.
I've watched wrestling literally my entire life. And like from before I was born, like in utero, my parents were going to wrestling events. So I grew up like this was our family activity, like sitting around the TV, like watching wrestling together. But I never had like action figures or anything like that. And I totally would have because I didn't do Barbies. Like I liked, Army guys, Little Soldier Men. I liked Matchbox cars, I like that kind of thing. I did like my Little House on the Prairie dolls. I will say that.
Wow.
But, but I didn't have them. But if I did, I would have played with them. I'm for sure would have played with them.
I remember Tara walking in, and everyone was like, oh, fresh
yeah,
blood in
right?
the water.
It felt like that.
Of course.
Oh my
What
God.
was it? Was it a little too much testosterone in the Bone Breakers?
I was like, wow, what am I doing here? And of course, my first night was a night that there were no other girls there.
Lovely.
So I was like, great. And immediately it was, oh, you want to be a valet? No, I want to be a wrestler.
And you did, man. Tara's a big part. That's the thing. You guys underestimate a lot of what your contributions were. Those early MCW females, you guys put it on the map.
Thank
so
you.
Yes, indeed, you did.
you.
And speaking of putting it on the map, how about our fans out there, our Coffee Club subscribers that have put us on the map and are making sure that we are nice and caffeinated into the spring, going into the summer. So we just want to thank you all once again for tuning in every week. And thank you for contributing, whether it be Cash App or Venmo or PayPal or whatever avenue of giving a little bit back to the wrestling that you love so dearly. Thank you, each and every one of you. And also, thanks everyone who came on out to the Fan
I was
Fest.
going to say that.
Yes, indeed. We had some of the OGs, Greg Papalukas, Dr. D, Daryl Johnson was there, cutting promos with Rosadia. So it was really a fan fest. I mean, that's the best way that I can describe it.
It was great.
it was great to see people.
See people, yes.
Yes, indeed.
Oh my God.
Right.
It was wonderful seeing people and, just interacting and engaging. I thought it was great. And so thank everybody for coming out. Also, if you missed the episode, you can listen to it on all of our major podcast platforms: Apple
Here we go.
Podcasts,
Here we
Google
go.
Play, SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, Pocket Cast, Breaker, Radio Public, and CastBox, and of course, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch.
What a pro.
Oh, yeah. Whew.
Got it done.
And also,
I had
fans,
a cheat sheet.
well, cheating does sometimes win. Also, fans, we want to encourage you. Did you like the Fan Fest stuff? Should we do this again? I felt like it was a swelling of support. It was so good, like you said, to see people, but we want to hear from you. So remember, follow us on Twitter, MCW Cast 2021, and use the hashtag AskMCWCast, and we'll respond to it. And thank you to everyone who tweeted out their photos, Facebook their photos, their videos. It was just, it got the juices flowing. I just can't wait until we through the tunnel fully and are in the light of doing shows once again here in the great state of Maryland.
And in the meantime, you can check out the Flashback Friday. It is Cherry Bomb versus Mandy Leone at Inferno 2014 at the Green Room.
Oh, wow. The
Yeah,
Green
so
Room. Memories
back
from
a
the
little
Green
bit.
Room. It was
I
hot
don't know
in
if they're
there.
good
My
memories.
God.
I don't know.
I bet you it felt like an inferno that night.
It probably did.
As hot as it used to get in there. But
What is it with buildings and wrestling shows not having adequate ventilation? What is that? Is that a thing? I feel like we've never had it.
Yeah, they just shut the doors on you and let you bake and stew in your own sweat and hot
Air
stuff.
conditioning?
Heck
What is
yeah.
that? That doesn't work.
Well, you know what? We wanted to bring the heat that night. And sometimes it works, but sometimes, you'd be better served to have some ventilation in there, especially nowadays.
Was that the show with Booker T?
Yes, it was. Yeah, I remember it
Every
because,
now and then I remember.
yeah, and it was hot that night too. Yes, indeed, it was.
It was an inferno. All right. Well, we talked a bit about our origins here, and we call ourselves like the MCW Originals, but we have tonight's guest is even more original than we are. He is an original to the Maryland wrestling scene as well as the national wrestling scene, and who has had a very long, storied career. Larry, would you like to do the honors?
I would love to announce our guest, Playboy, otherwise known as Pretty Boy, also known as Hollywood, Bob Starr, in studio tonight for the MCW Cast. I gotta say, if there was a Maryland Mount Rushmore of professional wrestling, Bob Starr would be at probably the top of the list to be a candidate to have his face etched on that mountain.
You're right. Well, one of our fans several weeks back asked us for the Maryland Mount Rushmore. So it is interesting that
wow. I guess I need to search the hashtag a little bit more. Yeah.
I'm just a huge fan of of wrestling history, especially my local wrestling history and things that went down at Bingo Billy's when I was a little kid, and I'd go, and the Playboy was a big part of that. So I've always been eager to kind of hear him recount some stories, pick his brain a little bit, and have some fun because he's one of the good ones. He's a great guy, and there ain't near a big name in the wrestling industry that he hasn't been in the ring with, and I think that's going to interest a lot of our fans, those who may not know him and those who do.
Absolutely. We're going to have the Playboy in the studio with us right after this brief break.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
Want to welcome you guys back to the MCW Cast, and with us, joining us, we are just basking in the presence of an MCW legend. I mean this, a Maryland wrestling legend, because, Bob, this is going to make you feel old. I used to watch you when I was growing up. I was about 10 or 11, used to go down to Bingo Bill's, never told you that, but I'm telling you right now, this is the great Playboy Bobby Starr.
Playboy, that was a few years ago.
Okay, where we at?
Stick with Bob now.
Just Bob.
But no, it's funny. It's amazing. I didn't know that because you really haven't said anything about that. And Bingo Bills was a fun time, man. It was a way different time in the business, that's for sure.
Well, you've been, I think, if people look at your career, what the most referenced kind of accomplishments would be, well, we saw you on Saturday night. We saw you on Nitro. A lot of guys have terms for this: enhancement talent, job guy, things like that. But they don't understand exactly what that entails. That is a very, very important role, and you had immense trust from the company, from the talent, because being in that role, right, is these names that the company has put so much stock into, saying this guy is going to take care of me. He's going to make me look good. He's going to keep me safe. And why wouldn't they want to continue to work with you, correct?
Well, the thing of it was, it's like back in the day, you would get teased by different guys in the business. Oh, you're a job guy, this or that. I was getting paid. I got in this business as a business. I wanted to do this for a living. It wasn't like a flash quick thing or whatever. And I took one look around and I'm like, it's not like today. We didn't have young kids in the business. It was all older guys. It was all really big guys. Well, I can only grow so tall, and like gas or not, I can only get so big. I mean, I tried that angle too, and I just was happy getting paid. Going, working. I got to travel all over the world, and it was like for them to take that trust, because I would go to TV and there would actually be people arguing who wants to work with you. And same thing with Barry Hardy, Dwayne Gill. When they took me to WWF the first time, it was just like you look around and you're going, oh, I'm really here. This is not good. Yeah. Especially when the first time was against the Road Warriors. But, it was all right. It all ended up okay. But yeah, and it's fun to this day. I still have a lot of friends in the business. We were just talking off air about Mark Marrow, good buddy of mine. And it's like they trusted me one time. I can't remember. It may have been 95, 96. His mom had passed away while he was in Japan. And he came back and they needed one TV match. And they came to me and said, hey, could you do this for us? Like, his mind's not there. Just do basically what you do. And we went out there, didn't say a word, and had a great match. And he's never forgot that, which is cool. I mean, it's like, but the one thing that I'll say, and I mean, the new fans don't get it, but they need to understand it. The people from our era, these people, because I heard you guys do the intro talking about MCW and MEWF and all the other stuff. This was a family. It still is a family, because I haven't seen Larry in months, but the second we see each other, it's like we didn't miss a second. Right. You know what I mean? Right. And same thing with you. I haven't seen Tara since the show we did the thing for RJ here. Bruiser, and it's like, it was fun. I knew my spot in the business, and that's something the kids of today don't get. Like, I was never going to get gigantic. You know what I mean? I was never going to be the champion, but I was always there, which was cool. And you hear, and I know, Larry, you've dealt with this, and Tara, I'm sure, as well, and Bob to an even much larger degree. Whenever I hear someone talk about job guy or just an announcer, that's an immediate tell. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. You don't know anything about this industry, because everybody gets in where they fit in, correct? And everybody plays a part. And this business is so unfathomably difficult, not only to get the break, but to maintain any sort of longevity. So the fact that you were able to work for every major company on every major show against the biggest names in their eras and beyond. I mean, I just listened to a match that was called by Dream and Gordon Sully and Larry Zbyszko, and they're saying your name. Like, that's huge Dusty. Stuff. Dusty, I used to somehow or another, I'll never forget, we were Anderson, South Carolina, which we'd shoot TV in Atlanta, jump up to Anderson like an hour and 20 minutes away. Then they would go home, and I would drive back to Baltimore. Well, I'm sitting in a gas station. I'm going, wow, fireworks. I can't get this at home. So I'm buying all these fireworks. And here comes Dusty pulling up in his little Mercedes, and he gets out, and he walks over to me. He said, kid, you working tonight? And I said, yes, sir. He said, you got some fireworks there, right? I said, yes, sir. I said, I can't get these at home. He said, don't go to jail. You'll do it TV next week. And it was just so funny. And then Dusty, when you listen to him talk about my matches, I was the redheaded. Get up, Red. Get up, Red. Yeah. And Booker T and Sherry and Stevie Ray named me Dirty Red, which people laugh, but like that was when you heard that, they knew who it was, 100%, it was just, and some of the hardest stuff. That was one of the things I thought when I was contacted to come in here today. Dan was actually the person that called and told me Sherry passed away. And we've all been through so many rough times, but as a family, we get through it. Yeah. 100%. And I think that's one of the things that's missing today, along with the fact that there weren't any kids back then. They were men. I was the kid coming in at 23, 4 years old and getting my butt handed to me on a nightly basis. But the thing of it was, I kept coming and I kept coming and I didn't stop. And the guys, some of them didn't respect it, but most of them did. And I worked with everybody from the Road Warriors to Ricky Steamboat, Bobby Eaton, good Lord, there's so many different people. And what's amazing is these YouTube guys that upload all the matches and get away with it, that where Vince doesn't, the people don't catch them and take it down. I'll see matches I don't even remember having. Like, literally, I don't remember anything about it. And I'm like, really? I worked with him? It didn't go too bad. Okay, as long as I'm still here. It's like, but it was just a fun lifestyle, and that's what this is. And people don't, the average fan doesn't understand that. You're either all in this or you're all out. There's no in between, because if it's in between, you're just going to get chucked to the wayside.
Right.
You know,
100%.
And it's like you said, the WWF and WCW. I actually worked on the second coming of the AWA, which was a fart in church, but it was cool for a few months. Then you got MCW, MEWF, VWA, NWL, all the promotions within, say, like a 250-mile radius of here. I've worked for everybody at one time or another. I may not have went back, but I was at least got in the door. And the two top was, well, MEWF for the longest time before MCW became. Then when MCW first came together, it was kind of the one group here, one group there scenario. And what's amazing, it took years for us to figure it out. And RJ was the one that did it for me. We got together one night, and I didn't know if he liked me or not. We never really spoke. He was the hardcore MCW guy, and I was like from the opposition. And like he said to me, he goes, bro, he goes, that's all under the bridge. You know, it's you live and you learn, you know. But working kind of in the office there, and then coming here, and we did the photography stuff before Craig came, and backstage, you know, BS running around getting stuff done, and wrestling the legend shows and stuff. It like I said, now it's strange. In the last 4 years, my family has dwindled greatly. You lost my mom and my aunt and a bunch of other people, not to mention my wrestling family. But it's kind of like, this is what I got left, is my family in the business. And, you know, I look forward. When I got the call for this, inside it's like, yes, I'm in. You know what I mean? And it's like, I never asked about it. I've seen it on TV, and I was putting it over to you guys when I walked in the door. This podcast with the video and all the hard work you guys are doing is one of the best ones I've seen, and I've seen most of them.
Well, thank you.
So it's like, you know, it's just that thing. Now it's to the next step.
Now, can you imagine when you got in the business, like this whole enterprise now? It's not just a wrestling show. It's podcasts. It's social media.
Birthday
it's
parties.
YouTube. Birthday parties. Like when you got in, like
we didn't have any of that stuff, because the whole business was kayfabe and nobody talked outside of that group. And it's like, you know, it's cool what it's become. I just wished it was more of what we had at the time, if that makes sense. And before anybody on the internet goes crazy, I don't down any wrestling at any company for anybody. Hey, everybody has a dream, and if that's what they're living, so be it. Good power to them. You know what I mean? But the thing of it is I came into the business, like I said, it was a business. You know, when you work for Vince, it's a business, because they'll eat you alive. Oh God, you know what I mean? WCW was no different. The only difference was I had a couple of friends, and like you said, once you prove yourself, then it's like nothing. It's like being George South or being Steve Lombardi or whatever. And just to be mentioned in that group of guys, it does me good, you know, because I did StarCast. Well, I guess it's been 2 years now with this pandemic stuff going on. But it was cool that sitting at a table in Chicago somewhere, Brian Holdhouse, my name comes out, and boom, I'm on the show. You know what I mean? Just like with this, a second thought, whatever, I don't know who was booked or what the idea was, but bang, you know what I mean? And when it comes, you step up and go do it.
Well, let's get into that. Let's get into Playboy Bobby Starr's origins into this family being accepted. Can you take us back to how you broke in? The fans want to know. I want to know.
That's a long time ago. I burned.
You were young when you started training, right? I know you were saying
I started training at 15.
Right. Wow. That's what I thought. You were really young.
And we had, just like a lot of the other guys, we had the backyard thing going.
My kids have it. Yeah. That's what you do. And it's like, we started with that, and then Dave DeMeglio, many people knows Romeo Valentino. His father ran a show, and back then there was no MCW or MEWF. If there was an indie shot, it was one, maybe two, and then they disappeared. So Dave's dad's running the show. The headliner was Nikita Koloff against somebody. It was right after his wife passed away, and I got on that one show, and from that one show,
Axel was there, and a few other people were there. So then when this show over here got run, they said, hey, what about Bob? And then when they called me, I would ask about somebody else. And it was kind of like the traveling circus thing. You know, once you ask for one, they're going to put over somebody else, and they want, you know, whatever. Then the group started. And I think that was the best thing that ever happened, because then there are shows more than once every 6-8 months, you know, because you can't learn that way.
Right.
Yeah, I've been in the business 100 years, but the first 10, it was a spotty thing because there was only 5 shows a year maybe, you know. And then when I got the shot, Axel actually did it. Axel and Dwayne got a call. Larry Sharp got a call from the powers that be at WCW. Hey, we're going to do TV in Baltimore. We need people. Okay, so unbeknownst that Axel got that call, I'm steadily calling the power plant, trying to get in.
Jody Hamilton at that time?
Jody Hamilton was the boss. And Jody goes, cool, kid, be in Baltimore. All right, cool. And that was the famous the Vader story. And
why don't you go into the Vader
regale
story?
us with that.
Let's get the
Regale us
Vader
with
story.
he wasn't in a good mood that night.
We like Vader stories on the podcast.
That was the night that, there's a good rib, and I heard Drolix talking about it when he was here. Mm-hmm. I ribbed the hell out of him on that. I'm like, dude, be careful. He's going to kill you. He's carrying a knife in his boot. And I'm like, dude, I wasn't that serious. Calm down. So we go to Baltimore, and that was the night that Ron Simmons won the world title. And Vader just wasn't in a good mood. I don't know if it had to do with Ron Simmons. I don't know if it had to do with dropping the strap. I don't know what was going on, because I stayed out of the politics. Just show up, sign in, get paid. You know what I mean? Do whatever they ask. And it was me and Bagwell. They sent us out to the ring, and that's all I remember. I don't remember much else, because they said Leon came in. When he hit me, he sandwiched my head in between his bicep and the top cable. And I was out. Gone. I tried to roll out of the ring, and I do remember Harley Race going, sorry, kid, I can't let you do that. And he rolls me back in the ring, and I'm thinking, I hate you, Harley. But, you know, those stories, like Larry was asking about the beginning, so then you're going back to A.J. Fritzoid and Axel and Dave the Wave is the main referee. Howard Goldman, there's a name from the past I haven't heard in a long time. Al Albert, when he first started, God rest his soul. And a funny quick story with Al Albert, he bowled with my mom and didn't know me. Like, he came to shows and was talking about wrestling one night, and my mom's like, my son does that stuff. And he didn't know that was my mother. And then that was his way in. You know, he eventually, he said he wanted to do it, blah, 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 and the opportunity came open, and Al jumped on it, you know. And then he went from, I guess, MEWF to MCW, and then caught a couple indie shots here and there whenever somebody asked for somebody. But Al, this was his home, you know, and he loved coming back here, you know. But AJ Fritzoid, never forget North Avenue. For the people out there, you guys have no clue what I'm talking about, but North Avenue is not the greatest neighborhood in the city of Baltimore. And let's just say when we would pull up at night, because it's an old boxing gym, you would get out and get in the building as fast as you could.
Of course, yeah.
Because eyes are on you. You know, you get dealers and
there's only a few reasons you'd be down there.
Right. And to be honest with you, I wasn't the right skin tone in that neighborhood at that time of night, and they let me know. So we went upstairs and told AJ Fritzoid. My mother was scared to death. Fritzoid goes, I'll take care of this. Walks down the steps, comes back up. He goes, they won't look at you. And I'm going, what the hell is he talking about, right? We walked outside. Never again. Like, he knew everybody there because he comes from that neighborhood. They never as much as looked at us again, you know. But going to North Avenue, that place was amazing because it turned out so many people that maybe never made it or didn't get to TV. But Sledgehammer McGill, the Surgeon, Morgus the Maniac, which everybody knows and loves, and his whole family, Axel, Dave. There were so many people that came through there, but that's all we had at the time. I was just telling the guys at the gym here, I don't think the kids, it's not a disrespect thing, I just don't think the kids realize how good they have it. Right. Because they have opportunities. They have the MCW podcast. They have all the things we were speaking about. It's like, that stuff didn't exist back then.
No.
Yeah.
You know, you got one shot maybe 2-3 times a year, and you better be ready to show it, because if you don't, they'll just pass you by and get the next guy.
You stink up the place, you got to go away, make them forget about you, and hopefully
get a shot to come back. Right.
And one of the pep talks I always give all the new students that come through the training center is, I'm like, look, you're not all going to make it. In fact, very few of you are going to make it. But if this is where you want to be, and you want to put in work, we'll find a job for you. Like we do so many, there's so many different ways that you can still be involved.
I could tell you a really funny story. I was working for the NWL, John Rambo and Dick Karakoff, and we're in some little BS PA town. And there's this kid, this little itty bitty skinny kid standing next to his father. And this is after the show. And they just wanted to talk to the wrestlers, and hang out. And I went up to him and talked to him, and they were like, yeah, he would love to get in the wrestling business and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, he's kind of tiny. I said, so, he could still go to the school. You need to talk to John. I said, maybe he could be a referee because he'd make everybody look bigger. And I went, because I would come and go. As everybody knows, I clowned around for many years, and I would just disappear and then come back later. Well, the next time I get there, I'm wrestling this kid. And I was married to this kid for almost 3 years. Every time I came up there, I got to work with that kid. And that kid just happens to be Brandon Scott.
I knew that's who it was. Yep. I knew exactly who you were talking about.
And if you look at Brandon then versus now, oh my God, and the amount of talent the kid has got over the years from working there, then coming here, then going over here, and then now he's all over the place, which is cool. I really hope out of a lot of the guys, the newer guys, that Brandon gets at least a taste and gets a shot. Because he's definitely put the work in. And that's the thing that a lot of kids, the guys back in my day, they did what they could. Now the facilities are here. All you got to do is show up and be there. It's right time, right place. The right person taking a look at you. Like every time Billy Gunn walks into this building and does a show with MCW, all it takes is one phone call. He may not be there, so to speak, but he knows who to call. And if he sees somebody, that's a pat on his back later down the road. If he brings Brandon Scott in and Brandon ends up being friggin' world champion, not saying it would happen, but it's a possibility. You
never know. You never know who's watching. I mean, and we do bring in tons of names, and a lot of them do sit there and watch everything. Ron Simmons is one. Billy Gunn, like you said, when Roddy Piper was here, he watched every single match, and where are you going to get that?
Roddy Piper, it was a funny story. Right before he passed, I was in Lancaster, Pennsylvania with him. And he walked in and he was just like, kid, what are you doing here? And I'm like, I live here. He goes, oh, I thought you lived in Atlanta. I'm like, no, not in Atlanta. Because I would see him at TV and stuff. And it was just like, we sat there and talked, and I met his son for the first time, and we talked and BS'd or whatever. Lo and behold, I didn't get any photographs with him, right? Because that was kayfabe back in the day. You didn't do that.
Sure, yeah.
Well, by the time I thought about it, they were gone, because as soon as they're done, out the door, right?
Yeah.
So he came here like 2-3 weeks later, and unfortunately that was the last time I got to see him. And I got here kind of sort of as it's time for Roddy to go. You know what I mean? So he was busy or whatever. But it's like MCW, people really, and I'm not trying to just put the guy over because he booked me for this, but what they owe Dan, he doesn't expect it like a monetarily type thing. Just say thank you and mean it.
Exactly.
Thank you means a lot in this business, and I want to thank Dan in front of everybody, and thank you guys, because like I said, I'm a mark. I sit there and watch the shows. Like whenever I get time to, when I'm not at work, my daytime job kind of is screwy, so I don't work the same hours as everybody else. But it's like all of this stuff. It's just amazing to where it's come to, and where it's going.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, Bob, you were instrumental in paving the way for a lot of the foundation that was built to forge MCW, MEWF, and Maryland wrestling as a whole. I didn't want to cut you off, Tara. Where were you going?
I had just a random thought. It was funny that you brought that up about getting pictures, because you're right. That was something, like my first 19 years in the business, I didn't get a single picture with anybody, except when I was doing Wrestle Talk America with Al Albert and Devious Doug.
Right.
Then we had to pose. But I got one with Roddy Piper when he came that night, too. I was like, I got to get one. Like, my dad loved him. I loved him. But so he comes in and he gives me like a hug picture. Like it was like a hugged pose, right? So I joined like an online dating site, right? And you got to put pictures there. And I was like, I don't know. So I stuck that up there, and I got so many people that would be like, oh, is that your dad? What? How do you not know who Roddy? But it was great because that was how I could just eliminate them. Oh, if you don't know who Roddy Piper is, we are just not going to work out.
We have nothing in common.
We have nothing in common. But that was like one of my favorite pictures, and it was that night I was like, yeah, I'm getting it.
And I'm sure you talked to him that night. And Roddy was such. Me and Larry talked before we came on about how there's a misconception that what you see on television is that person. Now, to a certain extent, it is that person turned up to 110, But when the cameras go off and they relax, it's a totally different person. And it's like some of them become flaming a-holes, and some of them are just the nicest people in the world. Piper, he was the nicest guy in the world, and he would sit there and he's told the story about Jimmy Snuka and that coconut 80 million times, but he would still do it with a smile on his face, and because he knew it was something special to you, you know. And it's like I just look at in the last 10 years how many people we've lost, you know. Like you put me over with all these guys I've worked with, but it's scary.
Scary, right? You look
know,
at paper.
like,
how many people are still alive on a single card that any card from the 90s?
I looked at you know, every once in a while, I don't know what you call it now. It used to be the WWE Network, but now it's this Peacock thing or whatever. And I got into it, and I'm just looking through different cards and pulling different. I was a huge mark for like Toronto and Madison Square Garden, like the house shows they would show.
Yeah, those old school house shows, right?
And one popped up, and I counted there were 17 people gone. And it's like, why am I still here? I did mostly the same things they did. Right. And let me tell you something, leaving Baltimore at 6 o'clock in the morning so I could get to Atlanta by 6 o'clock at night because the titty bar didn't close till 4 in the morning.
Cheetahs, Red Cheetah?
No, that was one.
That was one of them,
The
right?
Oasis South was the closest one to our hotel, and they would bring us back and forth. But it was nothing to be enjoying Mother Nature in Baltimore, and I don't remember anything to Atlanta, but I remember when we got to the bar, and I don't remember anything back home. The way I did it, as long as there's no scratches on the car, I don't have any tickets in the car. I must have did okay.
Right on.
But like I said, I made it through, and I promised my mother that a long time ago, and people be like, "Oh, no, it's the true story." She even asked me a few times, it's like, why are all your friends dying? It's like, you don't understand the pressure of the business, the pressure to be trained and trained correctly by people who've actually been somewhere or know what they're doing. It's not, I saw a thing this morning about this guy doing a seminar, and I had to laugh. Somewhere in Tennessee, and I'm going, who is this guy? Like,
Is it Brutal Bob?
No, it was a bald-headed guy, but I'm looking at
That
him.
sounds like Brutal Bob.
I'm looking at him and I'm going, who are you to teach a seminar to anybody?
Well, lots of people teach seminars
like,
these days.
Good Lord. I've been asked, and I don't think I'm qualified to do it. I can sit here and tell you all the stories, and I can explain to you how to do stuff. But for us, like, you hear the term getting somebody over. Well, when I started, we didn't call it that. It's called working. That's what you're supposed to do.
Wow.
You know what I mean? I didn't make a conscious effort to get over. I just walked to the ring and did what I did. And everybody did that, and everybody had a different personality, and the fans got behind, there's your baby face. And me, for some reason, they didn't like me then, but they love me now, and I haven't figured that out. Well, everybody that used to spit at me and throw stuff at me, now they all want to talk to me, which is kind of cool.
But you're their guy. You get it? Like, you're there. They watch you grow up.
I've heard that. People would say that to me. Like, I would go to the arena. When I worked for WCW, it was an unwritten thing. Like, if there's a house show, you go. Like, you know, and I picked up a lot of work that way because I would be there and somebody walk in hurt and they'd be like, grab your stuff. Boom, I'm on. You know what I mean? But it's like, I would hear from the fans there, it's like, man, I remember when and as soon as they say that part, it doesn't matter the rest. You still remember me, and that's a cool thing. Because I walk into these gyms, and it's scary, because I look around, I'm going, there's got to be somebody here that I know. Like, this is crazy, right? Like, when we came for RJ, I was walking around in the back, and I said to Dan, I said, where's the guys I know? And he goes, what do you mean? I said, I don't know any of these guys. And they're all super nice. And it's cool because I'm watching the next generation that hope to God hold this business together. Because, like I said, it's entertainment now. We didn't look at it that way back then. It was work. You get out there and you get whatever they give you, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And that's your spot. You know, and everybody had, like you said, everybody had a spot. Like, if Brandon wouldn't have started working out and kept going with it, he would have been a referee. He could have been the guy ringing the bell, because every job out there is important. If the guy ringing the bell rings at the wrong time, it ruins the whole match. It looks stupid, right?
Absolutely.
Same thing with the referee, which is what I eventually now, that's basically all I do now. It's like, I'm too old to be taking bumps. I'll be 50 this year. That's enough. You know what I mean? Like, I'll take a referee bump, and I even did that with Tom Brandy, of all people, I don't know, 2 years ago, and got hurt doing that. It's like, he come flying in, I'm like, this ain't good. And he squashed me to the corner. He goes, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, I can't breathe. Like, you know, 15 years ago, no problem, bro. I was indestructible. Now I'm frail and old. But, you know, and
Don't say old.
But like I said, the whole family thing is, I hope these kids are getting that part. And I'm not here every day, so I don't see it. But when your real life brother and sister kind of like, this family always stands behind you. You know what I mean? They may not agree with you, and they may cuss you to your face backstage, but in front of the people, don't mess with anybody. Because if you mess with one of the boys, here comes 4 more.
Hey, Rube.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, Bob, we want to talk a little bit more about that lifestyle and the family that you've gained over the years. But we're going to take a quick break for internet station identification. So fans, stay with us. We'll be right back with more with Hollywood Bob Starr.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
We are back here on the MCW Cast with the one, the only Bobby Starr, Maryland wrestling legend, and also one of the legends of wrestling in the 90s. You could have seen him on any of the Superstars, Nitro, Saturday Night.
Wrestling Challenge.
Primetime
Wrestling. I got that
wrestling.
one time.
Yeah.
Before it went away.
It's important. You brought up a good point, Bobby. It's today's wrestling. Like I was very fortunate as a non-wrestler and announcer to be in a promotion like OVW, which was run like an old school territory. Mm-hmm. So they had their WWE contract guys who were already getting paid the contract money, but they were running towns, and these podunk towns with these names, these guys that were going to become millionaires, and it was just that repetition. That's what you got to do. You got to get in your reps. And when you brought up Brandon Scott, I was talking to him the other night at FanFest about how important it is to get in those reps, to do those shows, to really hit the road early on so you make your mistakes. And that brings me to kind of, your career is interesting because you were on the road with these big companies, but you were a free agent, so to speak. I know everybody's an independent contractor, but you were walking without a net. There was not a contractual agreement, correct?
Correct.
So when you were making these towns, what was it because you wanted to get to that point, or because you were chasing anything in particular, or were you just living the dream? How did that function? How did that feel? What was that, your end mission, or was there none?
It's a little bit of both, because the thing of it is, of course, everybody's dream is to get a contract, right? And I was asked to move to Atlanta, and at that point in time, I couldn't. I had things going on here in Baltimore, taking care of my mom, stuff like that. And that was more important. You have to have some kind of, you got that list of where it is, and family came first and then wrestling. But of course, I wanted that deal. But to be honest with you, I got paid more as a night-to-night guy.
Right.
So it's kind of like, and a funny story, it all leads to a funny story. Jody Hamilton, one time, we're in Gorilla, and I'm getting ready to go to the ring to work with somebody. And I'm like, hey, Joe, is there an issue if I go work for Vince next week? And he's like, what do you mean? I said, just do TV. Like, they need TV guys, and they put the word out. He's like, I don't care. That's fine. That didn't last long, because I showed up, Mark Starr showed up, Frankie Lancaster showed up. Like, the whole Tampa crew flew into New York.
Oh, wow.
So we all taped, and in the course of 1 month, okay, go week to week, I'm on Superstars. Then I'm on Monday Night Raw. Then I'm on Saturday Night. Then I'm on Challenge. Then I'm on WCW Worldwide. Jody calls me. He says, hey, kid, I have to retract that. Do you work here or do you work up north? I said, yes, sir. No. And like you said, you're a private contractor, but that's a bunch of bull.
Right.
Because, like, here's the thing. I could go, well, I'm a private contractor. And they go, okay, have a nice day.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, and that's the biggest fear. Like, the whole getting a contract thing, now that I'm older and I've seen how it all works, it really doesn't mean jack.
It doesn't.
Because if Vince goes, Larry, you're fired. Okay, pay him 3 cents on the dollar. He can't work for 90 days. And with an announcer, that could be the kiss of death. Same thing with one of the boys. Because when
Out
you
of sight,
see,
out of mind.
Well, yeah, right.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but when you see me next, it's not going to be in the character I was doing there.
Right.
Because they own that, you know? And it was the same way with WCW, but I don't really remember. I know during the Monday Night Wars, that was a huge thing. Like, you know, when Lex jumped, that was huge. Like, everybody was at TV next time. Everybody's just sitting in the dressing room, like, looking around like, who's next? When Barry Darsow came in, do you remember the thing he did with Dustin in the back of the tractor trailer?
course, absolutely,
Thing
bunkhouse.
got them both fired.
Yeah.
Well, I was there the week that Barry came in. He walked into Center Stage in Atlanta, Georgia, wearing a WWF pay-per-view T-shirt, carrying a WWF bag. Within 10 minutes, Christine and God, what was her? Janie Engel and all them. Boom, here's clothes, here's a new bag, here's all the WCW stuff. You can't walk in here with that stuff. And Barry's just like, thanks.
Right.
You
That
know?
actually was one of our fan questions, was asking what WCW's policies were about you working other dates. So that was actually one of our questions.
I mean, I asked for 1 day off in the 5 years I was there, and it was a single shot because we drove everywhere. So to drive all the way to Atlanta for one payoff kind of sucked. So I said to Jody, I had the schedule for the month. I said, hey, do you mind if I go to like the ocean this week because it's just a 1 day? He's like, no, don't worry about it, kid. I'll give you guys one guess what day that was.
It was a Monday or a Saturday.
It was for Saturday night, and it was in Atlanta at Center Stage. But what day would that just the only day I miss all year.
Oh, Starcade. I don't know. What?
No, it was the day that Paul Orndorff beat the shit out of Vader.
Oh, wow, you missed that in
man.
flip-flops.
That was the only show I missed the whole year.
During
because
the pre-tapes, right? They were filming the pre-tapes.
And it's funny because Booker and Stevie would say it all the time. Like, we're under contract and you're here more than we are. Like, what do you do? I'm like, I don't know. I just ask him what dates he wants me for, and he circles all of them. You know, I used to find out my dates. It's funny. Go back on the internet. Remember when the internet was fledgling? Okay, before Facebook, before all that other stuff. They, you know, WCW had their website, and they would list all their dates. And if it said TV, I was on it. It was pretty simple. They didn't have to give me the papers. They just told me where to, you know, just do your thing. And it's like, but things now, I just don't get it. I really don't. I'm sorry. There was a few reasons I got in this business, and I can thank Roddy Piper and Paul Orndorff. My mom bowled, like, you know, 10-pin bowling league, whatever, and got me into it. That's what you do with your kids, right? Well, one Saturday, it was snowing, so bowling was canceled. And I get my cereal, and I sit down in the living room, okay, turn the TV on, zap. And I watched Paul Orndorff and Piper beat the hell out of one another. And I'm looking around, and you see all these hot girls with the high hair. And,
Oh, yeah.
and I'm like, that's what I want to do. Like, for real, this is what I want to do. And a friend of mine named Mike went to all the house shows and stuff in Baltimore. So I asked, could I go with him? Because I was still young. So I go to the first one, and from the first show, Hogan Beefcake, Baltimore Arena, I was in love. This is great. You look at all these girls. You got the girls. You got the parties. This is going to be great.
Now we know where the Playboy Bob Starr comes from.
No, I can tell you that. That's another funny story too.
We wanna hear that.
That was a rib. So everybody knows the whole Hollywood thing.
Sure, you had to
started
drop
right
it,
from the
right?
beginning. Yeah, that's what I started with, and it was simple. You just, you know, sunglasses, flashy jackets, whatever. So we're at TV, and Dave Penzer, the ring announcer, goes, we're going to do something a little bit different this week. He goes, you're going to be Loverboy Bobby Starr. And I went, okay. Well, it turns out that they saw me with some of the ladies in Orlando, and we were just screwing around, having a good time at the pool. So somebody came up with this idea.
Call him the lover boy, baby. I don't care. Don't be a funny duddy. Call him the lover boy. Call Red the lover boy.
So in the course of about 3 or 4 weeks, I was the lover boy. I was the, what else did they call me? God, it was 3 or 4 of them. But the VTR, the little thing with your name in it, it would just pop up with that on the name. And the commentators weren't putting me over. I'm the extra guy. But Dusty would.
Yeah.
And then they did the Playboy thing, and then it stuck, and it wouldn't go away. Like, they did it, and, like, everybody thought it was hilarious. I'm wearing the Fantastics jacket, you know, with Bobby Fulton. It's funny. I got the tag against him and told him that story, and he just sat there with a smile on his face. It's like he couldn't believe. I don't know. I like the Rock and Roll Express, and I like the Fantastics. I didn't think I could do the Rock and Roll Express thing, but the Fantastics, I was like, I'm going to try like hell, you know. But that's where the whole Playboy thing come from. It was just, they're just rolling dice, trying something different, because I think their thinking was if they could give me a nickname or something, maybe it makes me sound like I'm more than what I actually am.
Right.
You know,
Iron
I'm just
Mike Sharp.
right. I'm just the extra guy, right? The Brooklyn Brawler, Leaping Lanny Paffa. You know?
Yeah, absolutely.
And to be totally honest with you, I, in all honesty, would have been completely happy with my career being Lanny Poffo, be it that position. He worked every house show. He was always at the pay-per-views getting paid.
Yeah.
I just wanted to be part of the business. And it's like the love of the business, it's so different because now it's so oversaturated. Back when I first started watching, there was 2 shows on, and they were like Saturday afternoons.
That's it.
You know, and the reason they were on in the afternoon was you would watch, like I watched Baby Doll get hit in the stomach with a tennis racket from Jim Cornette from an angle they did on TV 3 weeks ago that just now aired. Well, that night in Baltimore, they tried to kill Jim Cornette when he came out. And I'm watching how this stuff works. Like people don't realize when they tape TV, it was so kayfabe about titles because if they put you over for a belt at TV, there was no internet. You had Dave Meltzer, which was kind of screwing stuff up for him.
Right.
But there's no internet. So we didn't know that Ron Simmons won the belt, or actually Vader won it at the house show in Baltimore, like a couple of months in December. They didn't know until it aired on television.
So they're taking it on the road kind of retroactively,
right,
correct?
Right. So the next day, Ron Simmons is still world champion. Until it happens on TV, it didn't happen.
And that's what smartened me up. I was there when Ron Simmons lost the belt. And I remember that I was like, wow, I saw this happen. It wasn't for a worldwide. I didn't even realize what it was. But the next week on Saturday night, there's Ron Simmons, fighting the Barbarian with the belt. And I'm like, wait a minute, he just lost
What
to
they would
Vader.
do is they would send Jackie Crockett, which was the head camera guy, and he owned all his own stuff. Jackie is the most amazing dude. You think I'm funny? You should hear his stories and the stuff that he got into just because he was the camera guy. You'd be amazed what people wanted to do in front of that camera for him. And he kept all the tapes. He's got it all.
Oh boy.
Wow.
So anyway, like going back to the whole name thing, it just stuck. And when I came back home, they taught me different things. I did an episode of Jerry Springer, and the makeup people there were telling me about the sparkly stuff and all this hence that's where this garbage comes from. It's just something to catch somebody's eye, something different. I used to buy, and Dan used to hate this because I would get sparkly everywhere. Like they expected it when there was a girls match,
Yes.
right? Because the girls would spray it in their hair.
I still have glitter in my bag. I was
doing the exact same thing. Like the girls would laugh because they would see me reaching in the bag, and Halloween time comes, I would buy all my silly string, all the glittery stuff. They'd see me pull the stuff. I'm just spraying it all over the place. So now there's a seat in the dressing room that wide that must be where Bob's sitting, right?
Right.
And then the guys would go home and get yelled at by their wives because they didn't believe, the guy I was working with was all sparkly.
They thought they were at the
Well, we went to the bar maybe, but the Playboy thing stuck. And it's like I keep telling people I'm advertised for an event. I'm doing an event this weekend. It's an autograph signing thing, and the guy won't stop calling me Playboy. And I'm like, dude, I don't have hair down to my butt anymore. I don't have that look at all. Like, can't I be just Bob Starr? I'm from Baltimore.
Bobby, you got to lean into it, man.
After all these years,
it ain't you. It's the rep they remember.
Well, that's the thing, and it was funny. I talked to Brian Hardy, and I kept telling him, I'm like, dude, I don't do Playboy. I don't even wrestle anymore. I'm a referee, right?
That's what they know.
And he's going, but that guy remembers you from TV, and I'm like, that's cool, and it's cool when an older fan will walk up and they start to talk about stuff, how they sat there with their dad or they sat there with their children, whatever. And they remember these matches that really 3 minutes doesn't last long. You know what I mean? But they remember it. And I think that's cool because I'll be honest with you, there's different tiers for me. The people that I worked with were superstars. The guys of today, most of them, and I'm not going to say all because you have your exceptions, Cena, Orton, that genre, they're wrestling stars.
Yeah.
In 5 years, nobody's going to remember these guys. Right. I know, and I bring this guy's name up, and I always blank. He was Trevor Murdoch's tag team partner.
Lance Cade.
That kid was built like $1 million, great guy, super nice, world tag team champion, and nobody remembers him. Right. You know what I'm saying? Nice. Like as a normal thing, like unless you're a super fan, they don't. And he was the friggin' tag team champion.
For a while there were a lot of guys who looked a lot alike.
Yep.
That were bought up and
20 more just like
snapped up, right? Like, oh, we don't want another promotion to get him, so we're going to hire him too. And you have some guys who were great talents, but completely forgettable in some ways.
Yeah. I was I sat in when FCW and Steve Kearns started back FCW. I was Dreams, junior booker, so whatever, assistant coffee, whatever. You got to get coffee at some point, right?
Hey, if you're going to
sit in a
pay me,
room-
I'll get you all the coffee you want. I ain't got to
Right.
take bumps.
If you're going to sit in a room with somebody in the wrestling business 6
Dusty
days a
Rhodes.
week, 12 hours a day, Dusty Rhodes the guy to do it.
Absolutely.
And it was a ex-football player, ex-UFC fighter, and male model factory. Everybody had the just plug on the head, build the V-shaped upper body. Vince loves his, as Dusty would call it, his monster factory. So he loved the freaks of nature. So he always had like 4 or 5 of those on hand, 7, 8 foot guys. And it was just such a weird culture. I go, this has no longevity because we're just like, we're combining like Barry Jackman, like just these horrible names on these guys that don't love the business. This is going to sink. And sure enough, it did. And what they have to do, they had to go to the Samoa Joes. They had to go to the Bryan Danielsons because those guys are great and they love the business. So they're going to, they're going to show up hurt. They're going to show up and work injured. And that's something that for a while there was really missing. And it really, like, even for a young guy like me, I was like, man, this sucks. This hurts.
Dude, you know what that is?
Your pinky?
That's an excuse to be off for 6 weeks if it's sprained, right?
Right.
In our day, you just tape that son of a bitch to the next one and
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
We couldn't stop. I blew my knee out playing softball, and I wrestled Randy Savage that Tuesday. Like, this is a Saturday. I'm in the hospital getting my knee aspirated, and I'm in the ring with Savage on Tuesday. And
You got shots coming up. You
yep,
can't miss it.
backstage, Randy's like, kid, don't worry, I'll get you paid. I'm like, no, you don't understand. I've been a fan of yours since I was a kid, which I learned quick not to say that to people. But he was like, no, that's cool. We'll take care of it. Okay, I wrestled Sting. One of the only TV matches he had as world champion on the run right before Rick Rude got hurt in Tokyo. And like I told him, I said, when you do the leg thing, you got to be gentle because my knee's messed up. He didn't even do it. He got bitched out in the back by management, and they're like, why? Why did I have to do that? I do that every time. The guy's got a hurt leg. He's one of our regular guys, so why do I want to hurt the kid?
That's a respect thing,
Yeah,
right?
and the only person, and outside the ring, Leon was a nice guy, but inside the ring, bro, don't piss him off because he would start swinging and he had no problem boxing your ears.
Yeah.
And it's like, a friend of mine, and you've heard this story, Al Phillips. Okay, that was one of my original guys. I met him through Tom Brandy, and I would take him to WCW all the time. Vader loved him because he never complained. He beat the out of him all the time. Then Madison Square Garden happened with The Rock and them, and I've never seen or heard from him again. And it sucks because that was one of my boys, man. It's like we did a lot of road work together because Leon would go to Jody, and he didn't know his name. I want the black guy, the one, one from Baltimore with the Baltimore guys. Then I would get the phone call, make sure Al's on this trip. And Al, he was crazy. He would give up jobs and girlfriends and all. He had his girlfriend's credit card. Let's go. He didn't have a dime in his pocket, but he had that credit card to go to do a TV.
Speaking of Vader, one of our fans has a question about Vader and wanted to know, were you there when Vader fought Joe Thurman? And if
Yes.
so, how did the locker room respond?
It wasn't good. Like the tenure guys, Ric Flair and them guys were upset. Like everybody was upset. No one at any time, I don't care what kid it is here in your school or anywhere, we're not here to hurt each other. That's not what we're here for. And Leon, I don't think he meant to hurt the guy. I mean, I watched it live happen, literally, because I was off that night. You get the TV, you're not on the list.
Right.
You're still getting paid, you just hang out. And I'm watching it live, and I'm going, why are they slowing everything down? I saw him do the power bomb, but I didn't see him hit the mat. Because you're standing in the back behind the people. And I'm like, something's up. And I went in the dressing room, and there's agents kicking stuff and screaming and all upset. And it's like, I don't think he meant to do it, but the bottom line is you did it. Right. And when other people that had nothing to do with that match, but they're going to the hospital to check on the kid, and Leon goes back to the hotel.
Boo.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Kind of the same idea when Mick lost his ear. I forget, Germany or wherever it was when he got caught in the ropes. Everybody made sure Mick was okay. You know what I mean? I wasn't there, but I can tell you they did. I know they did. And it's just like here, unfortunately, somebody's going to get hurt eventually. I just saw, because I'm on vacation this week, which made this possible. Kid got hurt last night. And it's all over the internet.
Humberto Carrillo.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
and
I
it's
saw
like,
that when he landed on his knee.
here's my thing. I think that these people out there watching, the whole social media thing is amazing. But I said to Larry when we first got here, why didn't Vince just show old pay-per-views, old house shows, whatever, for like the first 6 months of this pandemic stuff? Give the people something they maybe never seen and hold off because, on the red light they're seeing you, but there's nobody there live. You have no
idea who's
what's
getting over,
what's
how to work.
Right.
No tangibility.
There's
no
literally guys
ambiance.
working for Vince now that have never been on TV, like never been in front of people.
Right.
Let me tell you something. One of the first matches I did for the WWF, I walked out Hamilton, Ontario, Cops Coliseum, which is where the first Royal Rumble was, sold slap out. There wasn't a ticket in the building to hear "Oh What a Rush." Bro, that ain't easy. Mm-hmm. It's not good. And I've known these guys since I was kids. I met Animal and Hawk when I was a young kid. Mm-hmm. And it's like they thought it was so cool that I actually went through the whole process and they get to work with me. But let me tell you something, ain't nothing like having 18,000 people explode. Your heart falls right out your ass because you're going, uh-oh, this is not good.
Yeah.
And, of course, they beat up my partner, thank God. Good old Bob Wisman, if you guys, and Bobby Knight. I don't know if you guys
I know Bobby. I remember seeing a match with Bobby Knight. Undertaker put him in the body bag. I remember seeing that. He was my stepdad's a dentist. He was one of his patients.
Right.
Crazy.
We called him chest because he had a giant chest and nothing else. And it's like somebody tried, I don't know. But anyway, good guy. And just another old name to drop. Yeah. But it's, people don't understand. This is, if you've ever done drugs, okay, let's hit a different one. And I think you'll agree with this one. If you've ever done drugs of any kind, especially the addicting kind, the wrestling business is worse. Once you get in, and I don't mean students coming into the school, but I mean once you get in and you're on the road with the guys and girls on the weekend and you go do TVs and you do all this stuff, it's not too easy to get out of it. And honestly, from my heart, I think that's why so many guys are gone. Mm-hmm. When WCW failed to exist, a lot of guys didn't have a job. Where am I going to go? Vince doesn't want me. Most of them had already been there, burnt their bridge, and came down there. Yeah. And most of those guys are dead now. And it really, my mother told me a long time ago before she passed, I was desensitized to death early on. Yeah. Because it's like every week it seemed like, and I want to say it was 95, 96. Like 1 week it's Sherry, the next week it's Boss Man, the next week it's somebody else. Perfect. Then it's one of the indie guys at home, then Perfect. Bobby Heenan's gone, Gene's gone, all these different people. And I'm going, if WCW was still around and I went back, I wouldn't know anybody there either. Right. You know what I mean? And it's scary. I wrestled the Junkyard Dog. I wrestled Brian Pillman. I wrestled Buddy Landau. I've wrestled the Rock and Roll Express. I've done all these guys, and very few are still around. The ones that are around, I wonder how they're still here.
It's hard to come back from Rocket Man, from being in space into normal.
Yeah, and even me, and I get it. For the average wrestling fan, I was just a beat up doll. That's all. They don't understand that. That's how you made superstars. Is every week they came out and they basically practiced on us. They would try their new moves. They would show their finishes because the other big guys didn't want to lay there and take it. Right. So they would do it to us. And I had a choice. I'm not that big. I mean, I was bigger at the time, but I'm not that big. I don't have giant arms. I don't have the money to go out and get fake teeth and have the pretty everything. You know what I'm saying? Or the what do you call it? I can't tan because I'm a redhead. So
we think you're beautiful, Bobby. We think you're beautiful, and we're gonna stay beautiful because what do we got? We got a commercial coming up here.
I did it again. I'm sorry.
No, you did.
Wow, you were perfect.
I looked at it last time I looked. It was 15.
It goes in the blink of an eye. But
we'll be right back.
Yes, indeed.
We hope you're enjoying this week's episode of the MCW Cast. At MCW Pro Wrestling, much like many small businesses throughout the country, the pandemic has presented many challenges. For a company like ours that hosts events with live audiences, the impact has been even more severe, and all of our forms of revenue have been cut off. In order to continue to engage with our fans on a regular basis, we made the decision to begin to produce the MCW Cast and are providing it for absolutely no cost on Facebook Live, Twitch, YouTube, and SoundCloud. If you'd like to support us during these challenging times, you can do so in several ways. The most popular way is to buy us a coffee to help fuel the cast. Just go to buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast, and for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee, or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and receive several special perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. You can also contribute directly on Cash App, MCW Wrestling, or on Venmo, MCW-Wrestling. You can also show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCW Cast to pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Also, don't forget to comment in the threads on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch to get your questions answered on a future episode. And you can also send us a tweet using the hashtag AskMCWCast. Thank you for your support, and now, back to the show.
All right, back here with Playboy, Pretty Boy, Hollywood Bob Starr, and
Just Bobby Starr. Just Bobby Starr.
Just
now.
call me Uncle
I'm
Bob.
a civilian.
That's what
I
everybody
like
calls
that,
me.
Uncle Bob.
Or like somebody out there, Grandpa. You know, it's all good.
Oh my gosh.
I'm 50. It's allowed.
Well, we're back
I don't know.
nonetheless, and we've been taking, trips down memory lane, just name dropping all the live long day. I want to ask you about the first pro wrestling event that I ever attended, and it was at the Carnival at Patterson Park.
Yes, for the
so-
Preakness.
That's right. So we're talking, I think, 91. This was my first wrestling event was when Vader regained the WCW championship from Ron Simmons. But the first live event I attended was that Carnival, and I remember you guys were all just in a trailer. And the first match, Morgan.
It was a rider truck.
Yeah. Just
We didn't get a trailer. That was WCW. We got a rider truck. And the amazing thing, let's take it back. There's one rider truck. There's one curtain. The music guy's right here, and the ring's there. How did the good guys and the bad guys both get dressed? There was only one rider truck.
Exactly
But
what I was
the people
thinking. Yeah.
believed and loved it so much. It was like a blindfold. They didn't see that. You know, we're literally coming out of the back of the rider truck and standing behind the curtain, you know. But those were fun times. They used to the Preakness is a huge thing here in Baltimore. The triple, what is it called?
Triple Crown.
Triple Crown, yeah.
Part of the Triple Crown thing. So they would try to get small things happening along with the festival, which was all kinds of food and stuff like that. So somehow or another, Dennis and Tim at the time got in with them people, and I think we did it 3 times.
Yeah, it would be all throughout the Carnival. You could just go back and the show would
we would do 3 shows a day.
Yeah.
And I think we were doing hour and 20-minute shows total. So
They
it
were
was
short,
only like
yeah.
3 or 4 matches,
Yeah.
you know, and the thing of it was, okay, let's look at it from a promoter standpoint. I'm going to get paid once, so I'm only paying you once, but you're working 3 times. So we got the matches bang, bang, bang,
Yeah.
bang.
Yeah.
And it was just a good time. I remember somebody threatened Doink, which was Matt Bourne, or something. Like he said something. So he's telling him, come back here in this rider truck and I'll, kick your rear end, whatever. And Tim Burke's going, boss, the commission's here. Stop it. You don't understand. And so many memories and stuff like that. But that was a lot of fun. I mean, there was a lot of people at them festivals. I remember and thinking as a heel, I'm walking around early in the day before the first show goes on, and I'm going, how can I get heat? Most of these people have no clue who we are.
They just kind of stop sometimes at the Carnival and go,
Yep.
wrestling.
Yeah, and they would hang out for the whole idea was to try to keep them there.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it worked on me.
Yeah, that's how you know
We do
you
the
were
food
doing it
truck
right.
festival
Right.
at the fairgrounds every year.
Yeah.
Yep.
And same
to
thing.
get them, they're
Yeah.
walking, and to make them stop and stay until you were
Right.
done. So we're walking around, and back in those days, it was the the teen pregnancy issue. So they're like giving away condoms and all this stuff. And I went, I got an idea. So I got my singlet and stuff on. I'm just grabbing all these rubbers and stuffing them in my singlet, right? And the guy's looking at me like, hey, how you doing? And I'm taking them, and I'm like, I got a promo. So we go back, and we work. I think I was wrestling Rich and Earl.
Yeah.
And I get in the ring and I start to cut the promo and I'm looking around, and I'll be honest with you, that's some scary looking people. I mean, scary looking people.
So they're here, who's operating the Ferris wheel?
I
Right?
explained to them how it would be better as I'm doing it. I'm pulling the rubbers out and flipping them to the crowd like guitar picks if you guys don't reproduce. So let me help you out before the show starts. Dude, I went back in the back. The show started. When I walked out, I was scared. Like, it was freaky. But it was cool. And that's the moral of the story is building your heat.
That's
where
right.
most people just think I'm a dick. And it wasn't like that. It was
Right.
I was just building heat for the baby faces to get over even more. Because I think I either wrestled Rich and Earl or it was Morgus. I know one of the matches was Morgus and Doink against me and Tim. Good Lord. It just the match that would never end. It was 110 degrees outside.
Yeah, it was hot.
And I'm going, please just go home. I'm done already. I've done 3 gallons of sweat, and I got 2 more matches today. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's the trouble with those outdoor shows. We've done a number of them at MCW years ago, and occasionally
And the
we
mat
still do
gets
them.
so hot.
It's
sitting under the
stifling.
sun.
The ropes are like on fire and
Yeah.
everything about it.
And then they want to
yeah.
know why you get up so quick. You're not selling the bumps. No, I'm not going to cook on the mat. We
Yeah.
did one in Atlantic City with Dennis. He rented the ring to Tommy Fierro's people. And it was on the beach. And like, Bob, you want to wrestle? I'm like, come on, bro. Of course. I got my stuff in the truck. Get my stuff on. I went out there, took the first and only bump of that match. I hit that mat. I come up, and a guy named Chuck was my manager. And he goes, what's wrong? I'm like, bro, it's like a frying pan. I'm not getting, no. And,
Heck
we're,
yeah.
and the crowd's laughing because me and my manager going at it. I'm like, I don't care as long as I don't got to take no more bumps on that thing. And
Right,
we'll
right,
figure it
yeah.
out. But it's just, there's so many times, so many places. I don't remember. Patsy Cline. Do you guys know who that
Yeah.
Yeah.
Patsy Cline owned a bar in West Virginia. Okay. And somehow John Rambo got shows booked there. Now, literally,
Okay.
it sits on top of a hill, but there was as the hill comes down, there was like a flat part. So they put the ring on this flat part out front of the bar. And as soon as I got there, I went, but you want them to come in the bar to buy drinks and stuff. They don't even have to come in the bar. So we're sitting there, and I'll neather forget it because they had the neatest smoker. You guys know what a smoker is
Yeah,
for
yeah.
meat. It was a giant, like, old-style pistol. And when you opened it, you put the meat in, the smoke came out the end of the barrel.
Oh, neat.
And it was the neatest thing, and I don't even remember how I got on this, but that was the neat places that we
I'm
go
trying to figure out where this is because I grew up around there.
Yeah,
so.
it's God, I don't remember the exact town name, but I know it wasn't far from Hagerstown.
No, it couldn't have been. I'm thinking
20, 30
Martinsburg or
minutes.
Falling Waters.
Yeah, but it
Yeah.
was the neatest place because they afterwards, because I was clowning around on those shows, they took me, the general manager took me into the place and showed me all the pictures and all the tour memorabilia and stuff, and it was just cool. And then we did Pat Brink was just talking to me about working for Matt Bourne in Pittsburgh. When we went out to Pittsburgh, the promoter owned this giant club, and it had volleyball courts, and it had basketball, and all this neat stuff hooked to the bar. Well, they were just running wrestling for the day. The boys had more fun than the wrestling fans did because we were all hanging out. We get to do stuff together.
Yeah.
Go to the bar that night, and here's one of the famous drinking stories. Does everybody here know who Blood is?
We know
From
we
the
know
local
Butcher.
group? The
Yeah,
lo-
Baltimore
okay.
Blood.
So he's not getting paid anything. You know, he's just basically going out there kind of comp type deal. He's getting to stay at a hotel and go out with the boys. So we get out there, and the owner of the bar goes, listen, for you, and I'm trying to think real quick, Tony Atlas was there, Valiant brother, Johnny Valiant. He was doing his comedy show there. For you guys, everything's on the house. For the other boys, I'm just going to do like draft beer. And we're like, okay, that's cool. Go to this barmaid, she'll hook you up. Well, 10 minutes later, I see Blood walking around with 2 pitchers in his hand. And I said, John, what are you doing? He goes, I might not be getting paid, but I'm getting drunk. The next day, I go past the bar on my way home. I didn't have to. It was a commitment, but I always learn to say thank you, and
Yeah.
it goes a long way. So the owner's there, and plus I was thinking maybe free lunch before we leave town. So me and Buckchild go back to the bar, and we're talking to the guy. He goes, listen, he goes, I don't know what y'all did last night. He goes, but I have never, on the best Saturday night in this bar's history, went through that much draft beer. I said, well, you gave it to the boys.
Right.
I'm like, the boys are going to drink, you know.
Right.
And but just little stupid stuff like that you remember. WWF, Hamilton, Ontario, then Ottawa was the next day. I thought I was going to die. It's hooked to a football stadium, right? So we find our way out in the football stadium, and everybody's like, well, we're going to lay out here in the sun for a little while. We've been driving all night, you know. So we lay down, and I'm thinking, I'm a redhead. I can't do this long, right?
You can't be out there long,
So I
right?
fall asleep on the
Oh,
turf.
dear.
Oh no.
And as they're waking me up, I'm going, oh, my God. And I'm going, but it doesn't hurt. And I learned a very important lesson. The sun doesn't hit the earth on the same axis as it does here. So I got a little bit of red out of it, but I wasn't burnt at all. And that was the weirdest, dumbest thing ever. But it was just another experience at one of these crazy things. I remember we got to the third night, was a place called Cornwall, Canada. And we had a bunch of Larry Sharp's guys there. And there was 2 Spanish guys that barely spoke English, a tag team hit squad or something. Not the same one that wrestled here, but another one. And they're like, come. And I'm like, what the hell are they telling me? Just go with them. They must got something. They got all these girls that don't speak English. And I'm going,
Wow.
Grand Slam, right? They
Yeah.
just saw us in the ring. This is cool. They didn't know how to get us back to our hotel. That was not a Grand Slam. We're in Cornwall, Canada. We go do our thing with these girls, but none of us know how to get back to the hotel. And that's where Dwayne taught me, always pick up the card leaving the hotel so you know what the hell the address is and you can get back to your hotel room.
Yeah.
I was there the night that Barry Hardy wrestled Ultimate Warrior the first time, right? Front page of the newspaper the next day is Barry Hardy up in the air over Warrior's head. 3 o'clock in the morning when the dude dropped the newspapers off in the front office of this BS hotel, where Barry's running up and down the hallways, banging on every door in the hotel.
Oh my
You're
God.
not going to believe it. I'm on a newspaper. And we're going, you're crazy. And then we all thought it was cool, but it's 3 in the morning.
Right,
What
right.
the hell are you waking up everybody in the hotel? You know, but just different stuff like that. Too Cold Scorpio. I know you know Scorpio well.
Of course.
How do I say this and not get in trouble, Brent? You got to know this story.
Is manhood?
Well, the hotel, the Ramada in Atlanta.
Oh my Lord.
Every maid, everyone in the hotel
This is true.
at one time or another. Well, for some reason, the office booked him at the Ramada, and his wife was with him. So watching him step out the back door, down the fire escape to get past all the maids, to get out the front door and not get in trouble. Amazing stuff. He's not married to her anymore. Thank God.
That's why you could tell it.
But
yeah.
well, and that's another thing. And it's like, I know there's a whole bunch of people out there watching this going, he better not bring up my name.
All right.
There is stories for days, and most of those stories will go to my deathbed. A lot of people know, and I mean, I don't know if you guys saw. I was sort of dating somebody for the last 5 years, and she sort of went back to her husband. Whatever. 25 years in the making. I taught a lot of the young guys when it comes to that kind of stuff because I always try to keep guys out of trouble. And it's like I only had one failure. He got 2 girls pregnant in Atlanta, and I told him, I said, I wasn't there. Sorry, I can't help you, bro. But all that craziness today wouldn't fly.
No.
You know,
Not
like
at all.
when I packed my bag back then to go on the road, it was, let's see, pack a little alcohol, pack a little drugs, pack a little bit of stuff in case I get hurt, pack my clothes, but I don't need any of that because I'm going to the bar. And that's what we were worried about. We were going to go perform to the best of our ability every night. There was no phoning in stuff back then.
Right.
Then we're going out and party. And the nights with Arn Anderson and Ric Flair and Jumpin' Joey Maggs, get his name out there too because he was one of the originals here in Baltimore. To go from the titty bars to the dancing bars to the just all night clubs and stuff like that, and get in the ring the next night and do it all over again. Notice there was no sleep in between.
Yeah.
Right.
For days at a time. We would go on tour to go to Orlando to do Worldwide and stuff at the studios. I don't think I slept for like 14 days. Like maybe a little cat nap waiting to go to the next town,
Yeah.
right?
You get it in where you can. That's the rule.
And it was just fun.
What
you
was
know?
the longest stretch that you were on the road for? That actually was another fan question. It just came to my mind that you're talking about this. But what was the longest you were away
17
consecutively?
days,
17 days?
something like that. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't 17 matches in a row. It was because we would do like Orlando, you go there for 2 weeks. You'd have a day off in between for them to change because they would build that set on the sound
Right.
studio. So when it went from Worldwide to Pro, there was different things they had to change and the tunnels they had to build and stuff like that. But like 17 days.
Wow.
And like independent wise, maybe a week. You know what I mean? Because indies were so hard back then because it was like, I remember Tom Brandy, who was one of my traveling buddies. We had so much fun. Hold House, same thing, because we would all end up in the cars and roll. Steve Carino was in that group.
Yeah.
We started in Baltimore, did MEWF, went to North Carolina, did 2 or 3 shots for Greg Price, drove all the way to State College, Pennsylvania to do 1 shot at the fair.
Oh, wow.
To turn around the same day and drive back to Alexandria for cue ball.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's all in 4 days
Yeah.
we did that stuff. And Steve Carino's Bronco broke down. He had the old OJ Bronco, broke down halfway through the trip. Not only did we get it fixed, but we made the show and then came down here. Funny one on that. That Road Warrior Hawk, I got close with him for a little while. And at that show, it was a giant fair. People
What year
everywhere.
was it? What year was this? Can you give us just some context for the people at home?
93, 4, 5,
93.
somewhere in
Okay,
there.
okay.
Yeah,
Was
early
this
ni-
when
it was
him
early
and
90s.
Joe were Animal were split for that period of
Yes,
time? Okay.
because he was doing indies on his
Right,
own.
right.
And we're at the merchandise table, and I was clowning around on that deal too. And like I was selling a couple here or there, $10 a picture. Well, Hawk's got a line a mile long, and he ain't got a camera. And he's going, "What am I supposed to do? Here, Dirty Red, give me your camera." And I'm thinking, I only got like 20 pictures left, bro. I got to make money. Give me that camera. He took every one of my pictures, took 2 or 3 rolls of film from somebody next to him, and the whole time he's just reaching next to me and shoving 20s in my top, right? And I'm looking at him going, come on, bro. Like, really? And afterwards, I said, let me get your money. He goes, no, that's your money. I said, what are you talking about? It's for your pictures. He goes, keep it. I'm good. But when you're making $3,500, $5,000 a shot,
Yeah.
you don't
That
need
ain't
to
nothing.
give $20, right?
Right.
To me, it meant the world because that was the biggest payoff of the whole damn trip. But it was just stuff like that, stuff that guys didn't have to do that they did. I remember WCW, you said Nitro. I did it one time.
Yep.
And I asked Kevin Nash to put me on Nitro because I'd never worked that show. So I didn't have a credit card at the time. And they call me, travel calls, they fly me out there. How am I going to get to the show? How am I going to get it from the airport? Because in Denver, the airport's way out here and the city's in here.
Yeah.
Right.
So I get on MySpace. Male, because I ain't messing with women out there until I know what the hell I'm doing. Wrestling fan. Boom. And I just went down until I saw one that looked like an adult, whatever. He's a teenager. And him and his buddy came pick me up at the airport, took me out to a nightclub, showed me all around. And, of course, they're showing their friends, the pro wrestler they met.
Right.
So they're over with everybody. And then I go do my 6-minute thing. Well, while that's going on, somebody said Colorado Springs tomorrow. And I'm going, that can't be that far away. Why didn't they book me for that? So I went up, asked Terry Taylor. I said, Terry, is there any way you can get me? I'm here. Can you get me on that before I go home? I said, my ticket, they paid like $1,700 for my plane ticket because they didn't buy it till the day before.
Right.
Wow.
Right? That's why WCW's not around anymore. Stuff like that. So he's like, yeah, you're on. So I call and change the ticket or whatever. And I went, how do I get to Colorado Springs? I don't have a rental car. I don't have I can't get the fans to do it. So Terry calls Barbarian over. He said, Barb, can you do me a favor? And I couldn't hear all what they were saying. Barbarian walks up. He goes, you with me, kid. Are you done? I said, what am I mean? He goes, you're riding with me. I'm going, okay. I mean, you're only 3 feet taller than me and 100 pounds heavier than me. I'm not going to argue. So Terry Taylor called in a favor for me. And at the end of the trip, I tried to give him money towards my part of the rental car because it was just me and him in that car because him and Haku were not allowed to travel together because of the fights and stuff they would get in. And he's like, listen, remember this. I'm helping you. The next time that a young boy needs help, you help him. He goes, that's how this business works.
Wow.
And I never forgot that. And every single time I've ever been able to try to help, whether it be just explaining to him, like listening to boys talk over a match and it doesn't make sense or whatever, trying to help them out as a referee, doing the same thing. That's missing in the business today because everybody's worried about their spot, their thing, not everybody. When I come here, if I was brought into MCW now, I'm not here for me. I'm here to make the show as best as possible, do my part because everyone has a part. And I think that's one of the things that's missing in the business. And I think it'll get back to it. And I think it's going to be soon because right now everybody's itching.
Yeah.
They've been sitting home for a year and a half. They're itching. Some people are done and don't know it yet. They're going to get back in the ring and it's going to be like, I still got to work and this stuff hurts. Like, you don't know what's going to happen, but it's coming soon.
We've had a year with people wrestling in front of no fans.
Yep.
That's just weird.
Well, imagine the guy that's been doing that.
Yeah.
That's never worked in front of a crowd before.
Yeah,
or
you can,
never
how
worked
can
in
you
front
have
of a big crowd.
This is a feedback industry. This is a listen to what they're buying and what they're not, so you know what to give to them and how to take it away and when. Right,
and that's
without
the art of
people,
working.
Right,
because I've went out there as the heel, and they cheered me, and they're booing him, and all I did was lock up with the guy and say, switch the whole match, everything. I remembered his parts because we, obviously we went over it.
Right.
And then we gave them what they wanted.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? The thing that's changed since the NWO, because I was there when it was hot. I mean, I was there the night that Hogan turned heel. I ain't never seen something like that in my life. Daytona Ocean Center, man. They wanted to kill them. They're throwing so much garbage in the ring and stuff. Security, what are they going to do? It's not one or two. It's all of them.
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it.
So
At the end of Hogan's career there,
Right.
they were throwing stuff in the ring at him too. That was when he was a babyface.
that's kind of why the red and yellow went away. But
Yeah.
nevertheless, when that era of the business started, it's when everything changed. Because back before that, you cheered the good guy. You booed the bad guy. Maybe you had an in-between guy once in a while, like Piper.
or a
But-
flair that the people
Right,
respected.
right.
Yeah.
They respected him so much they cheered him. Because I watched him many nights in Baltimore against Dusty, and I can say, yeah, they're popping for the babyface, but they're popping for Flair too, because Flair could stop the match, put up 4 fingers, and the whole crowd goes nuts.
Right.
Kind of like you were saying earlier about Zach. It's amazing when you go to a WWE house show. I bet to this day, if there was a house show, they're going to be doing woo.
Oh, yeah.
Flair's not even
Absolutely.
there.
Yeah.
right? And he's getting the biggest pop of the night before the show starts.
I went to Disney World before WrestleMania, 2017, right? And we're walking around Disney, and you hear people doing it the whole day. And WrestleMania at that point was still 3 days away.
Right. Yeah. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to say before we wrap up this segment is thank you to the fans. And not just because that's the thing to do. For real, because you hear it over and over and over again. Without you guys, we don't exist. Coming up as a redheaded kid, okay, there was only 2 of us in my high school. It was a girl and me. So we were the ones that got picked on and all that kind of gaga, whatever. I found my niche for the rest of my life in this business because I went, well, if they're going to pick on me, I might as well get paid for it.
Heck yeah.
Then I saw the girls. And we keep going back to the girls.
Right?
The whole Playboy thing was a rib, I think, by Terry Taylor. Because do you remember the name Julio Sanchez?
Yeah,
Of
Julio
course.
De Niro.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm not going to go into detail, but we had a competition once in Orlando, and he beat me. And the bastard locked me out of my own hotel room one night. But that was one of the most fun road trips ever. But and them stories stay away because he gets in trouble. I just
He's a married man, very happily married.
I just get single every time I talk about it. But the fans, you know, and whether it be from the commentator office role, the ring announcer, the booker, you're doing all this stuff because without this wouldn't without you it wouldn't happen. The birthday parties, you brought me in for one of them.
Yeah.
You called me, and she was short on guys today. She goes, "Can you come wrestle?" I'm like, "Sure, man. Let me dust off my boots."
Yeah.
But the fun we had at that, and seeing the little kids' faces, because the kids still believe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
the adults don't. You know, Vince screwed the pooch on that one. But as far as the kids, they look up to you like a superhero.
Yep.
You know, thank you to those people. Thank you to the people that actually come out and spend their money at MCW, and for the people that remember. Because like you said, you get all these questions, and that actually blew me away when you said, I'm thinking I'm
Yeah,
going
I
to
was
get like,
scrolling down
I'm
going,
going to get
wow.
like 2, right? And,
No way.
And they'll be the same thing. Did it hurt when Vader kicked your ass?
No, actually, after we come back from the break, we're going to do some rapid fire questions,
Yeah, that's
actually,
a
because
great
we're almost out of
segue.
time.
Somebody. I'm not going to be white toast on this one. It's 21. You guys wrap it up for this segment.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
We'll be right back with you, fans, and we'll have some questions for Playboy.
Show your support for the MCW Cast while sporting some great gear by going to teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. You can pick up a full line of official MCW Cast merchandise, from coffee mugs and face coverings to t-shirts and sweatshirts. Visit teespring.com/stores/MCWcast. Fuel the MCW Cast by visiting buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast. And for just $3, you can buy the cast a coffee. Or you can choose to become a member of the cast for just $5 a month and get several additional perks. That's buymeacoffee.com/MCWcast.
All right, and we are back here with Bob Starr and Brent and Larry. And it has been a very engaging evening, and I have personally enjoyed hearing all of these trips down memory lane. And
I just have fun. It's memories, man. That's what I got in this business for, was to make money and make memories.
That's right, Uncle Bob.
that's great. Well, we have a lot of fan questions for you, actually.
Yeah, let's get to them.
And one of the questions they want to know is, who was the easiest person you ever worked with?
Define easy. Like,
Yeah, like you
Like,
mean easy as in
Easy,
best
like
worker,
you knew
or-
when you showed up at the arena that night, you were going to have a great match, nice and easy, get in there, call it on the fly, whatever.
Bobby Eaton, Ricky Steamboat, Ricky Morton, all them guys.
Okay.
Like, as soon as you walked in, it wasn't like I'd said earlier about the Road Warriors. I was just scared of them. These guys are gigantic,
Yeah,
but
they
they
were
were my
scary.
buddies, and they thought it was
Yeah.
cool that they knew me since I was a kid, and here I am, you know, on national television with them, you know. But,
Yeah.
And kind of along those lines, which wrestlers were always open to giving you advice and helping you out when you were a young guy? Because when we went to the break, you were talking about how you got to pass it forward. Well, who was doing that for you when you were?
Just most of them. I mean, I was sort of, if I was to say it in my words, I think I was Jody's troubleshooter. I always got stuck with the giant guys, which always had hard matches because like people were scared of them. So I was big guy. I mean, I wasn't gigantic, but I was 260 or whatever. So you're not going to really squash me.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I can handle Earthquake doing stuff or One Man Gang or Kamala and all that. And I had fun with them, you know, because I understood. Like some guys would get butthurt about it back then. We talk about the whole butthurt lifestyle now.
Yeah.
Guys would do the same stuff back then. I'm like, I don't care. Just pin me, pay me. I should have been in a job squad. You know what I mean? It would have been perfect.
Yeah.
Did you ever do a tour outside of the U.S.? And if so, where? And
Canada.
do you have any
Just the
stories?
Canadian-
Well, we've
just
heard
the
some
Canadian-
Canada stories
just
already.
The Canadian stuff.
All right.
I never got to go to Japan. I wasn't interested in going to Mexico or Puerto Rico. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with those places. I just, you know what I mean?
Was
Like,
the style not your style, or was it just a little too renegade down there at that point?
Puerto Rico with Brody.
The
that
island
the end of
was-
it for me.
yeah.
When Brody
Yeah.
died, I never ever thought about it again.
Yeah, lawless.
Mexico is the language and food barrier, like and contact barrier. You know, some friends went down there, but I just never even bothered with it. I was happy doing what I was doing. You know, plugging the independents every single weekend, and then going to TV Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. You know.
Did any of the wrestlers ever treat you as less than if they viewed you as enhancement talent, or did everybody just kind of treat you just like the rest of them?
Not really, not me, but I did see that happen a
You
lot. But I was the guy that was there every week. So kind of like when I said George South, Steve Lombardi, stuff. They're kind of those were actually company guys. I was as close to company as you could get without having a piece of paper. You know what I mean? Like I would call the beginning of the month. Jody would say, "If it says TV, you're there." Okay, cool.
Can I ask a quick question here? So back in the day, I know, was it still? It was still even when I was getting, a look or whatever as an announcer, you could still take draws.
Right.
Was that still the case back?
It was there for the longest time, and then they stopped it because there were so many complaints from the boys, wives calling the office, freaking out, going, "Where's his paycheck?
Half the checks go.
Yeah, the check's not here." And they're like, "Well, we went skiing in Florida, and we went skiing in Atlanta. We went skiing in Denver."
Yeah.
And by the time that was done, magically all the money was gone.
Oh, well, those sound like fun stories. Speaking of, I'm almost hesitant to ask this question, but living around Baltimore, did anyone ever spend the night at your house after a show?
Not many that I'm willing to talk about. We stayed at a lot of hotels.
I think this person is asking when the guys came into town here, did they ever hook up and hang out at your house?
We would hang out, but we wouldn't
Okay.
stay. I didn't have the room. I live in a small house, so.
Okay, so you're off the hook there.
Yeah.
All right, I was hesitant to ask that question. All right, do you have if you could name your top 5 favorite opponents, who were they? Any promotion?
That's a hard one though, because when you talk about independent versus the big time, my best match, the matches that I patted myself on the back for: Eddie Guerrero, Ricky Steamboat, Bobby Eaton, the Midnight Express. But that was an independent show, so that's a little bit different. I mean, to me, like now, MCW draws 600-700 people. Independents didn't do that back then. If you had 300 people there, holy, it was a party after the show because you did good. If they saw the numbers you get now, they'd have lost their minds, right? But I don't know. That's kind of like, what's your favorite promotion? It's more like, which one did I make the most money with?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I love them all for different
How about
reasons.
tag team partners? Did you have a favorite tag team partner? Because I know you've tagged with lots of different guys. Okay.
Only 2, Rich and Tim.
Okay.
Tim Burke.
Tim Burke was
The
like
night of the road.
Tim Burke, some people loved him, some people didn't, but he gave a lot of people a chance that they would have never got. They honestly didn't deserve it, but it was their dream, and Timmy always looked at that part for it to try to make people's dreams come true, even if it was only once. And I did that once too. I don't know if anybody knows the name Jay Sledge. You remember skinny black dude, kind of tall? Well, he hit me up, and I was doing my WCW stuff, and I called Jody, and I said, "Joe, I got a guy that's coming to our school, super nice. He's kind of skinny, he's kind of tall. Can we just get him in once?" And he's like, "Sure, bring him down." I didn't know they were going to put him against Sid.
Oh,
wow.
So the whole trip, Jay's just having a ball. He's a wrestler, and he's touring. And we get there, and we were in Dalton, Georgia, I think it was. And I could hear Jody screaming my name from down the hall. And I'm like, oh, what did I do, right? I'm thinking I did something wrong. I go running down. He goes, "What is this?" And Jay's standing in the ring. And Sid had this thing where he would poured the water over his head right before he came out. He would come out shaking, and he looked psychotic, right? So when he walks out, Jay's not thinking TV cameras, right? It should be on Sid.
Yeah.
Jay's going, was his exact look. Joe's like, what the is that? And I'm like, dude, I was the same way when I wrestled Sid. Like, that's a big son of a bitch, right? It's
the ruler of the world.
But it was cool because in that one day, I'm sure Jay would have loved to come back again, but it made his dream come true. He got to wrestle on TV. And actually, I think he went up and did some work with Dwayne at WWF, too.
Yeah, he
but
did.
It was that was the whole thing. Like, Tim Burke, like, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
The Hollywood hunks, I think. Isn't that what they called us? The Hollywood hunks.
Yep.
And it was just like, it was like being with my brother.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Literally. Because we shared everything. I mean, we didn't share his wife, but, you know.
Share Naughty Nicole.
Speaking of fun, you know, some cities are known for their fans. Baltimore being one of them.
Philadelphia.
What?
Right.
Where did you find the most fun crowds? Like, where did you really look forward to performing in front of?
Charlotte was cool. Mm-hmm. Philadelphia was always crazy. Mm-hmm. Richmond was okay. Mm-hmm. Richmond, the problem was the Richmond Civic Center or whatever it was at the time was so old and just falling down, basically. I mean, it was cool to go there. It's just like wrestling in Baltimore Arena.
Right.
That was a cool – I always got killed in Baltimore, but it was my hometown crowd.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Baltimore could be hot and cold, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it was they either loved you or they hated you. It was just like Philadelphia. If you were a babyface in Philly, you were screwed because they loved the heels. Right?
Yeah.
That
Venomous.
was horseman country. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I think the question, let's break this ice. I think the question you're asking me is what states had the best rats? That's the question.
This is what we want to hear.
That's what they want to know. Okay.
Not sure.
And in that case, man, Atlanta was hot. Philadelphia. The best ever was being at the, what was the name of the club we used to go to at the airport here? Safari Club.
Safaris.
And the Richmond Rats and the Philly Rats would meet in the middle. And they were fighting over the same guys.
Oh,
and I'm just standing there going, when you're done bitching, can I be next?
Can I just say I was used as a rat decoy on multiple occasions at that bar. When we would go back after we would do Wrestle Talk America with Devious Stock, and we'd go back and we'd hang out at the Sheraton at the airport, right? All right, so we'd hang out there. More than once, the talent would be like, come sit here with me and be my rat deterrent.
I've done
and I'm
that
like,
before,
okay,
too.
because see, I was under contract, so I couldn't date any of the wrestlers. I was safe, you know, like they could flirt all they wanted to with me, and they definitely did. But I was so enamored with my job that I was like, oh, there is no way I'm breaking my contract. So I was like a safe bet. So I was a good deterrent, you know.
You know what's funny? I saw you back then and had no clue who you were. Like I was told, Bob, leave her alone, leave them alone, because it was you, and wasn't it a blonde girl that was with you?
There was a blonde
girl. And I was
girl.
told right from the beginning, leave them alone. I'm like, okay.
Well, and that's the thing, like word got out like that, and I have to say the guys in the back treated me so well. Like I just remember like Big Show coming and being like, come on, let's go meet everybody. And because I wasn't one of the rats,
right,
you know?
right.
And I established that like
You
from
were
the
in
beginning.
before you
Even
were
when I
in.
wasn't in, I was in before I was in,
Right,
and that's
right.
kind of how it felt. So, but yeah, I was
We
a
had
rat
people,
deterrent.
There was people in every town. Do you guys remember a bald-headed guy who used to hang out at ringside named Pat? Here in Baltimore,
I'm
was
not
the
gonna
dude,
remember anybody's name, but if I see his face, I will.
He was an older white guy,
He brought the
bald
chicken.
head. He'd
Yes,
bring
the
chicken.
The chicken.
He-
I used to
he
call
would-
him as the chicken guy.
He would bring
I know.
the coffee urn. They used to have the old
Yes.
school gimmick, the big metal coffee urn. And he had so many cool people. He worked for Amtrak. So like he would make huge money. So anytime they came to town, he'd just take off and come to the show and hang out with the boys, you know. But just like you were there, of course you looked a hell of a lot better, but you had certain people in certain cities that you could count on. I had friends, Tony and Nidra in Atlanta, two African-American girls that they would do anything for you. And the boys always wondered. No, they never messed with any of the boys. These girls were just there to make sure you were okay.
The right kind of fan, right?
I would come into town sick, literally sick, like with a flu or something. They would call and check on me all the time. Do you need food? Do you need this? And to this day, Tony's one of my best friends. Nidra passed away, but Tony works for the IRS. So like every time I got questions, I just call her, you know. But and like I stay in constant contact with a lot of people that I've met over the years. When I actually got to do tours with WWF thanks to Dwayne. And I met a lot of people in Pennsylvania. We would do like all the colleges and stuff like that. And you just zigzag all week long, up and down. You start in Pittsburgh and end at the Jersey Shore, you know. But I made a lot of friends too. I mean, there were some do's and some don'ts,
Right.
you know, and some that you might throw an offer, but if they don't pick it up, you just, you know, whatever. And it amazes me that, like I said, like we were talking earlier, that these people are still around. It's 30 years later, you know. Think about it. When was my last television appearance for WCW? I wrestled X-Pac.
99.
Was in, 99.
Wow.
And here we are, 2021, and people still remember.
I know. I
It
still got
just
more
blows
questions.
me away.
I know.
Yeah, let's get those questions out.
What was your favorite arena to work in? I know it wasn't the Baltimore Arena.
No, it was
Clearly
fun.
wasn't Richmond
it
either.
was fun being here.
Yeah, but the arena is kind of a dump. I mean,
The Macon Coliseum was cool. It was never full, but it was always cool. It was a nice building. I wrestled the last match ever at the Columbus Civic Center, Columbus,
wow.
Georgia, against Bobby Eaton. They had the wrecking balls on the parking
Oh,
lot.
wow.
They were waiting to clear all the marks out and all the boys and they were knocking it down that night.
Insane.
Which was kind of neat. The Orlando stuff, I don't think that counts because that was Disney, you know,
Yeah.
Universal. It was fun, but it's not the same thing. Daytona Ocean Center was pretty cool, right on the beach. Everyone's got a different
Flavor, right?
Yeah, yeah. Like when I went to what's the name of the place in New York Vince did TV at when we were kids? Mid Hudson Civic Center.
Oh, Mid Hudson, yeah.
Kind of like when I wrestled Cops Coliseum as a kid. I remember watching the very first Royal Rumble. Hacksaw Jim Duggan won in that.
Right, right.
And as dumb as it might sound, it's just kind of something neat, you know. And I got to work there too. The one thing I never got to do that Danny got to do was wrestle Madison Square Garden. That would have been cool. But I did wrestle in the Omni, so.
all right.
Yeah.
All right, yeah.
I wasn't the North guy. I was the South guy.
I think
so
the
got all
Omni
South
takes it,
stuff.
man. I
Yeah.
don't know. There's something special about the Omni for
And the
real.
one place I would say, the one promotion I missed out on and that I would literally go back and change is working for Bill Watts. Bill Watts in the UWF as a kid, that was the thing, man. The blood.
Did you ever
and
work for
guts and
ECW?
crazy stuff. Yes, one time. It was me and Hack Myers, another one, God rest his soul,
Yep, I know.
against the Harris Boys. And it was on the WWE Network for a little while, and they pulled it down. Here's the deal. Axel got me booked. When I showed up, Paulie had a feather up his ass because I worked for WCW, and they had heat. So they beat me out of the dressing room, down to the ring, did whatever we did, and all the way back up to the dressing room. And I got back in the dressing room, and everybody's like, they killed you. And I'm like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like they didn't
sell
hurt
it
me
for a second,
you know?
yeah.
That's
Right,
the
I want you
difference
to the back.
between a worker and non-worker.
Right.
Like they made Paulie happy, I guess, but I didn't get
You're
hurt.
snug.
you know?
You're out there with the
Right,
people. It's got to
right.
look right.
Yeah,
You
and
know
especially
the
that
difference.
crowd. When you wrestle in Philly, I don't know if you ever wrestled at that arena, even if it's not ECW.
I did.
They're just blood-hungry,
Oh,
crazy
yeah.
Yep.
people in
Well,
Philadelphia.
that leads into the other question, which somebody was asking, what was the most dangerous crowd? And I think that probably goes
Philadelphia.
without saying.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Philadelphia.
I worked in that arena as well, and
I
they
wrestled
were
the
crazy.
Philadelphia Civic Center one night. We were here in Baltimore. We went out to that bar we were just talking
Yep.
about, and Joey Maggs was there. And he said, "What are you doing tomorrow night?" This was on a Friday night, and I said, "I don't know. What am I doing?" He goes, "You're coming to Philly tomorrow." I said, "For what?" And somebody was hurt or whatever, and they needed a partner for Joey against the Cole twins, if you remember them two,
Oh, yeah.
the two little Beach Boys. Bro, let me tell you how this went. I didn't think about what town I was in. I'm all happy. You're in the Civic Center. It's another dilapidated arena. But we're way upstairs. We don't get a chance to talk to him that much. We come down. Grizzly Smith goes, "Everything good?" We're like, "Good." He goes, 20 minutes. Okay, cool. We go out to the ring, and they cheer me and Joey.
Uh-oh.
And I went, "Oh, this is going to suck."
This is the
Right?
worst thing
Because
that could
when you get a
happen.
chance at house shows when you're not contracted, you got to put on a good show because then they're going to remember that come TV.
Right.
And I'm either going to get Vader or I'm going to get Rick Steamboat. Which one do I want?
Right.
So we go out there, and here comes the Cold Twins, and just fart in church. They didn't like them at all. And we're trying to keep to the baby face thing. And I keep looking at Joey going, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Right.
You know, turn the heat. I'm pounding on them. They're popping. And I'm going, what do I do? Like, I'm doing my job.
I gotta
I'm-
kick a baby across the damn.
Yeah, it's like, but that was Philadelphia outside that arena that night. This is a funny story. Like, actually, it's not funny. Somebody died in it, but wow! we go out back to the arena. And if you've ever been to Philadelphia Civic Center, the old Civic Center, if you go out back, it's like a road that went all the way around the building, And there's railroad tracks down there, and you're raised up off the tracks. You know what I mean? So it's way down there. So we're out there, a little bit of Mother Nature going on, and Lex is there, Sting, and there's a couple cops, which blew me away. But what we do is our business. And pop, 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 pop. We're like, what the hell? We run over to the thing to look down to the railroad tracks. Some dude's standing there with a gun. He just shot some dude. And the cops look, and they're like, that's too much paperwork. Everybody went back in the building. We jumped in the car and got the hell out of Dodge.
Unbelievable.
Oh my God.
Philadelphia, number
All
one.
right, last question, and this is a non-wrestling related one. So for those of you who don't know, Bob Starr also does photography and is an avid concert goer.
Okay, I was
so-
about to say I don't have children and I know.
No, I'm just saying. So I also like concerts. But anyway, so the question actually has to do with that. And
Right.
what was your favorite show at Hammerjacks?
Hammerjacks. God, I burned a lot of them brain cells.
For those outside the Baltimore listening area,
They know who
this
Hammerjacks is.
Yeah,
If they're rock and
everybody
roll
knows
fans,
who-
legendary.
There
if you listen
isn't-
to music, rock music, you know who. You
There
know
to
about
this
Hammerjacks.
day,
Yes.
and it's true story, there's still not a road case of Def Leppards, Poisons, John Bon Jovi's that doesn't have Hammerjacks in it. They have everybody's got the bumper stickers
Absolutely.
inside the cases. I don't know, man. I guess Poison.
Yeah.
I saw Poison. I saw those
Poison at
guys
Hammerjacks.
before they were.
Oh my
Well, I was
God.
there. They only played there once.
I
He
saw
played one
them.
time.
Oh my God.
But no, I'm the '80s guy, man.
Yeah.
I like long hair and I like revealing clothes and I like people to just have a good time.
And your photography is great. I got to say that. You've got an
But
album up
I
on
don't
Facebook.
hold hold a candle to Craig. I try.
You get great shots, and you have a genuine love of the business.
Oh,
just
absolutely.
Like with wrestling.
I
think
love-
that's an interesting facet.
Funny story. I broke up with my ex, who you knew, Debbie, and I was just like any other guy, down and out, whatever. So I just start taking people to shows with me. You know, hey, maybe I'll get laid, maybe I won't, whatever. You go to the show.
I love where
and
this is going.
Wrestling. Well, no. I'm not going to get that bad. Rock concerts, 80s style. The M3 Rock Festival is coming to Baltimore July the 4th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th this year. That genre is the only place I've ever been able to feed that addiction. Because like Poison, I would get front row or whatever the deal is, go shoot the show. And I would be standing there and literally in the middle of the show, the girl I'm with is like, what are you doing? And I would just stop because I've seen this a million times. I've seen Poison 200 and sometimes now.
Wow.
I would just turn around and watch. And watch the people and feed off of that.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
That's
you know
I
what I'm saying?
love.
Like,
Yeah,
I
they-
love concerts
they
for
would
that
start a
energy.
song. They would come out. They would start with trying to think. Look what the Cat Drag did. As soon as they would start, the crowd would explode, and I could hear the night that I was at the Cops Coliseum with the Road Warriors. You know what I mean? It's so totally different, and you guys will get it because you've done this and you've been to enough concerts. You get huge pops.
Yep.
And it's like Kenny Chesney when I shoot the country shows, same kind of stuff. And it's like, but no, I give the devil his due. One of the best photographers in rock and roll is Craig, our photographer here at MCW.
Yep.
But I've met a lot of amazing people through rock and roll, and believe it or not, a lot of them are wrestling fans. It really is.
I believe that.
I mean, Ricky Morton and Brett Michaels. You know, if you ever watched back in the day, they used to use Poison music every once in a while.
Yes,
back
indeed, yeah.
You know, and it's like to see Ricky years later and tell him I know Brett and stuff like that, and I've met him and shot pictures and stuff. It's just always a fun conversation. But I want to thank all of you guys. Because the one thing, and I said it during break, is if you let me go, I will talk all night long.
Oh, we love it. We love sitting by the fire.
God
fire
rest
with Uncle
his
Bob.
soul. I got to bring up another name, Lou Levy. He was the best.
Wow, absolutely.
I will never forget backstage every night. Bob, stay off of that damn microphone. You're doing that talking. He goes, the match is 10 minutes, the talking's 25. None of that tonight.
Because he wanted to get
God
home.
love him. Yeah,
like that was what it was. He didn't
God
want the
rest
show to go
Lou.
long
Man,
because he wanted to get
There's so
home.
many. We just lost Randy Jr. You know, we lost Al Albert. We lost RJ. And this is just since this craziness has started, this new world we live in.
Last was
Oh yeah,
Havoc.
oh my gosh,
Yeah, you just
Yes,
said you
Havoc.
just said
Yeah.
another
Havoc,
one.
yeah,
And it's kind of like, you know, it hurts, you know. And I didn't know that guy, but just to hear another one of the boys is gone.
yeah.
You know, but I guess it's that time.
It's time for me to
It
get
is.
filled in.
It's that time.
no, sorry,
Wait, what? What do you mean?
no.
Ill.
No filling in tonight. No, but I want to thank all of you for being along for this wonderful ride tonight. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as
I want
we
to
all
thank
have.
you guys and everybody out
No.
there, Dan McDivitt, Dennis Whitbreak, the whole crew. You know, anytime I come back home, that's what I call this place.
Yep.
Like I may venture over here, venture over there, but this is always home.
Well, you're always welcome here.
Always welcome,
Thank you
Bob.
much.
And thank you so much for joining us, fans. That's going to wrap it up for us. But you know you can catch us every Tuesday at 8, Facebook and YouTube. We'll see you next week for another edition of the MCW Cast.
Me.